Hello, hello, hello. It is 25 degrees centigrade here in Abuja. But humidity is 87%, so it is quite humid and pretty challenging, not as it was a couple of weeks ago. So you just have to at least do some things differently. Hydration is key at this point in time. So a lovely scenario from CBD in Abuja. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
Where we are right now, of course, that's a very lovely and beautiful sight of Abuja that we're seeing. Here in Lagos, I say good morning and welcome to the program. Let me take you to, again, the Central Business District in Lagos here. That's going to be coming up in a little while from now. But when that does show up, you'll see where it is. The weather in Lagos is 28 degrees centigrade, and the humidity is at 90%, and wind traveling 8 kilometers an hour. This Central Business District in Abuja, quite a lovely sight, you must say. Anyway, good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Okay, so now, do you remember this clip which we showed you yesterday? Yes, and a certain Bishop John Bull from Ovia Northeast local government area who, in that counting, counted from 300 thereabouts, it jumped to 500 and then to 700. That was on the 17th of February at that APC governorship primary in the state. But you know what? Several people made comments about that particular primary. So the party has then put up a statement. They say that they've declared the governorship primary election there in the state inconclusive. So that was the National Publicity Secretary who said that in a statement which was issued on Tuesday night, announced that that is the party's position for that contentious primary. Now, the ruling party said a new primary date will be held on Thursday, the 22nd of February, tomorrow, to determine its flag bearer for the September 2024 governorship election in the state. So the party convened an emergency National Working Committee NWC meeting on Tuesday night to resolve the lingering crisis arising from the primary election conducted by the Senator Hope Uzodinma-led committee. So they're now going to go back and see how they could sort that out, because as at the last count, about 3 persons emerged laying claims to the governorship ticket. So now they are trying to ensure they put their house in order and probably get the mathematics right this time and not try to pull wool over people's eyes. I just wonder what that gentleman how he's going to be feeling now, having seen that all his efforts, whatever the intentions were, well, at the moment, appears to be coming to naught, because they're going to go again. And so when they do go again this time, anyone in that party for that primary should ensure that they do or play their part to get things right. Because if we can't get it right at this stage, from whence then will all those criticisms be justified?
Well, can we just say, Chamberlain, that as you said, his decision, his own decision or indecision, has also been declared inconclusive as a result of this particular thing. But you know, jokes aside, part of the things that we've been saying is that the party is the one that should be determining how the state or the country is governed. If at the party level this is happening, then big questions, as Marco would say. However, Chamberlain, I don't think it's enough for the party to just say we're going to conduct another primary. I think there should be an investigation and there should be some serious punitive measures. You know, we always talk about lack of consequences. Let there be some consequence for this kind of action, because this is the one we've seen, thankfully. How about those others that may have happened or may happen eventually? The least anyone is going to say is, well, it happens, and then, I'm reprimanded, and then that is it, nothing happens. Let there be some consequences. I think that will send a very strong message, particularly coming from the ruling party in Nigeria. Back to you, Chamberlain.
All right, so we'll be back to take you through the papers. All right, let's take you through some of the dailies here today. We'll start with New Telegraph. Senate to probe Buhari, others over 30 trillion naira ways and means. Remember that famous word that made the rounds? It's not going to headlines again today for a while, probably. You never know. Look at the writers. Claims reckless spending caused nation's current woes as commotion characterizes debate. Desperate politicians sabotaging economy, ascribed to Shettima, that's the vice president. And above this one, you get to see fuel scarcity looms as importation drops by 57%. Available product the last 3 weeks. Pump price hits 700 naira. I know NNPC would always tell you that they dispelled the rumor, actually, of this scarcity across the country, saying that, well, we'll come to this. You know what the phrase is usually. And then price control. FG threatens to open borders for cement importation. The Minister for Works did say that much. Probably will get you to listen to that soon, but this is New Telegraph at the moment.
Blueprint is speaking about the same language as the New Telegraph this morning. The Blueprint newspaper says, Senate to probe Buhari, others over 30 trillion naira ways and means. Is that really what is going to happen here? Is it the former president that has been probed, or the activities of the CBN? I don't know, but, you know, you want to check the details on the front page. It continues on the inside page. You look at the writers. Alleged facility recklessly spent, cause of food security crisis. Losers in 2023 elections behind nation's economic woes. That's from the vice president. Well, the president has said, I know what the problem is, don't pity me. So, dear Mr. Vice President, is it okay to say fall in line? I don't know. Look at the story right under that one. Will unlock trillions in public wealth to boost economy. That's ascribed to the president. Now I hear Nigerians saying we can't wait. But look at the writers, a little troubling. FG to release 60,000 metric tons of grains. Customs plans distribution of confiscated food items. I thought someone came out and said the federal government does not have anything in their silos. And now the federal government is saying they're going to release 60,000 metric tons of grains. Is there anything anyone wants to tell us about the claims of that fellow who made that comment? Find the details on the front page. It continues on the inside pages. Cement manufacturers using unstable forex to inflict hardship on Nigerians, ascribed to the FG. And right above the nameplate, CBN teams up with NSA to hunt down foreign exchange speculators. I hear someone saying, again? That story is on page 20. That's the Blueprint newspaper today.
So take a look at the Guardian newspaper. Confusion as Naira crisis defies interventions, fuels inflation. That's a big lead on the front page of the Guardian here today. Falana insists on price control as Shettima blames saboteurs for food crisis. You also get to see, you know, that rain that happened yesterday. Now NEMA says 151 houses affected by downpour in Lagos. What a figure that is.
It's not a very pleasant story on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Rather troubling, wouldn't you say? Despite FG's clampdown, that's the lead story of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Dollar hits 1,900. Pound, 2,250. Now look at the writers. BDCs raided, operators arrested, trial and error not solution, according to economists. Partner us to address volatility. Operators tell governments. Which operators are these? Please find out. The story is on page 4. Nasima wants dollar pegged at 850 Naira. Okay. Well, there's some infographics on the front page talking about Naira devaluation, cash restriction, dollar supply, dollar demand, and all of that. Find the details on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. FG NASPRO, Buhari's 22.7 trillion Naira Ways and Means loan. Details you find on the inside pages of the paper. That's the Daily Trust newspaper today.
Well, Business Day say they've got a big story on the front page here this morning. Quote, no pay, no power hits electricity sector. So you might want to go in and digest it and see how that is going to play out for Business Day. Akwa?
I wasn't there. That was the refrain we heard yesterday at the National Assembly. Almost reminded me of that Shaggy song. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Well, look at what's happening on the front page of Vanguard newspapers this morning. NECA, oil marketers to federal government. Shan Pride, review subsidy removal, flotation of Naira. Lists anti-business policies of government, worsening employment index, other causes of nation's economic woes. Peg forex rate at 715 Naira to the dollar. Oil marketers beg Tinubu. Is that still possible today? Big question. Page 5 is where you'll find details right there. I'm sure we'll take a look at other parts of the paper, including Mr. and Mrs. Today is a Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
We'll leave that for. Okay, and I'm trying to see if there's one more paper we can look at here. That will be leadership newspapers. Leadership newspapers, let's see when it pops up on the screen what it has for us this morning. Looking at it now, Chamberlain.
Yeah, hardship. That's what we're talking about.
Hardship. Presidency blames economic saboteurs for food crisis. That's the lead story you see right there. As customs moves to crash prices with seized items. So seized items are going to be finding their way into the market from the look of things.
Oh.
Is that what we're seeing here?
Oh, dear.
Is that what this suggests? To sell bag of rice for 20,000 Naira. So very soon. Well, you see, these kinds of things, they don't really work, these kind of interventions, because what you might find is that those who actually have deep pockets might go and purchase this in bulk and then resell. Isn't that what usually happens?
Wow.
Well, that's the lead story on the front page of Leadership. And one more rider, intercept 4 trucks intended for illegal export. So that's the front page of Leadership newspapers. And of course, you see the minister for the FCT there flagging up another road, this time around in Abaji Area Council. That's at the border of the FCT with Kogi State. Let's leave it there for Leadership newspapers.
Well, the thing about some of this is what stands out. I mean, you see the vice president speaking a lot, saying forces hell-bent on undermining Nigeria.
Yeah.
For instance, the front page of Tribune quotes him copiously on that one. So now, well, anyone can say that in this kind of position. I mean, anyone who's on in government may say this and you think this is beer parlor talk. But if it's coming from a government official, vice president at that, you'll expect that, okay, now you know, you have that information. But you also government, you also have access to a lot of information that the people don't have.
Yeah.
So what people will expect them to then do is, you hunker down, go in, look at your policies. Where are these people? Who are these people trying to, in his words, undermine the country? Can they be charged for economic sabotage? What are people doing? What is government doing about this since you know what this is? Because we expect that if they know this, then we should expect the next line of action, maybe a series of actions, as it were, to ensure that something is not just done or not just being seen to have been done, but something that has a huge effect to stem the tide in all of this thing that is going on. So we're looking to see what they do moving forward.
Well, I just saw something right now on the front page of an online, let's say, investigative platform, FIJ, and this is somebody who actually decided to smuggle food into Nigeria, using, it was an undercover journalist and what he had to uncover was quite telling. Sometimes these forces, when we think about them, we think that they are big forces somewhere. No, sometimes they're just insiders who refuse to do the right things. Insiders who will not do the right things, who can do the right things and refuse to do the right. So ask yourself, how are you contributing to this sabotage? I think that's a question that all Nigerians need to ask themselves at this point, Jimmy.
But the crisis in the food, many saw this coming. When they kept on sacking villagers or farmers in Benue, in Taraba, in Niger, in different parts of the country, in Plateau, of course, and then occupied those lands, people knew that this was going to happen. Of course. It was very clear.
You don't need a soothsayer.
We shouldn't act surprised.
You don't.
What have we done to ensure that people get back to the farms? So who were those responsible? So if they can't pull their act together and ensure that people ensure that they get back to the farms, rout the terrorists, wherever they are, then how do you expect food to be available if we can't go back to the farms?
Well, I'm going to read Mr. and Mrs. today for Ayo's benefit. Ayo, it's been a while. Take a look at this. Mrs. is the one speaking this morning. She goes, you were grinning like a schoolboy when she was introduced to you as your PA. She's beautiful and could do no wrong. Now that she's made away with your $4,000, do you expect sympathy from me? Well, I'm looking at Vanguard newspapers, guys. And, well, Mr. says, but she's no longer my personal assistant. And Mr. says, well, that's your personal issue. Okay. That's a personal issue. Well, all right. Sometimes you just have to loosen up a bit and just laugh. Even though the situation looking at us right now is not laughing. I mean, when you look at what is happening on the front page of Vanguard newspapers, the story is right there. Sean Pride reviews subsidy removal, flotation of Naira. It does say that we need to start having conversations. Yesterday, Mr. Comrade Esele was saying this is the time for town halls. Those town halls need to happen on the situation of the country, not just, you know, it needs to be deliberate communication with the people at this time.
I'd like to see an action hall too, where these policies are getting the kind of effect they need out there. All right, so those are some of the things we'll talk about when we return in just a moment. Stay on with us.
The journey to success is not always smooth. There are rough patches on the path to accomplishment. The struggle continues until solution appears that launches you to the world of your dreams, protecting, securing, and ensuring that you reach your goals. At International Energy Insurance, we know that the journey to actualizing your dreams could be tough, but we are always there to support you and help you prepare for the unexpected. International Energy Insurance is a Nuremberger company now positioned to serve you better. International Energy Insurance PLC. Energy to care.
Abubuwa da yawa yau. Albarka. Ovaltine kyakkyawan zaɓi domin yara masu basira.
In this era of recovery, ability to engage virtual stakeholders successfully could be a veritable source of sustainable competitive advantage. Embark on a transformative journey with Texam's Effective Leadership in a Distributed World program. Join us from 9th to 23rd March 2024 for a dynamic 3-week online experience and a 3-day face-to-face session in the UK. This program will be delivered by illustrious Oxford-trained Professor Roger Dell's London Business School alumnus, Professor Paul Griffith, And Oscar-winning ambassador Charles Crawford secured 25% early bird discount, paid 2,407,500 Naira for online and 7,864,500 Naira for the UK and online sessions. Achieve, optimize, and win with Texum. For more information, email exec@texum.co.uk or call +44 7425 883791. Texum. Insights that inspire. Actions that change the world.
Dr. Umar Ardo Book Launching Committee invites the general public to the public presentation event of the book, Cult and Politics. Date, Saturday, 24th February 2024. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Venue, Yaradua Center, Wusu Zone 4, Abuja. Special guest of honor, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR. Chairman of the occasion, Professor Angu Abdullahi, CON. Guest of honor, Senator Doye Diri, Governor, Bayelsa State. Real Father of the Day, Alhaji Barkindo Aliyu Mustafa, PhD, the Lamido Fambina. Elder Statesman of the Day, Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, OFR. Book presenter, His Excellency Dr. Kwesilieze Nwodo, CON. Chief launcher, Dr. Honorable Abiy Precious Sekibo, Achin III of Okrika. Book reviewer, Professor CJ Dakas, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Announcer, Alhaji Shehu Musa Gabam, Makaman Tilde, Chairman Steering Committee.
For you to be, let's even say 100,000 barrels that is being stolen at $70 per day. You are losing 100,000 barrels at $70 per day. That is even not just an economic threat, it's also a threat to national security. Because if somebody has such an amount of money, he can do anything to undermine government. So what will government do? First of all, government need to arrest and address whoever is behind those Kudoye term. But we all know that Kudoye term, powerful people are behind it. Then you ask yourself, the second thing you also need to ask yourself is, what is the main challenge facing the average Nigerian right now? For you to have cost of living skyrocketing, the main engine room is the movement of goods and services, which is transportation. It's not just about federal government. Let's ask ourselves, what are the state governors doing? It's a failure of governors at all tiers of the federation. Federal government, state government, and local government, they've both failed in addressing the challenges that Nigerians are facing. Now, it is not the responsibility of federal government to provide local transportation to move people from point A to point B. There is no single state that you say have a wholly designed transport system management in the federation. And yet we all know that subsidy is going to go. And the first place where subsidy goes that will take the hit is transportation. 70% of people's monthly wage right now goes into transportation. So what is the state government or the local government doing? From the advent of this administration, the revenue accruing to state and local government has doubled. So if the revenue has doubled, has the services being provided to the citizenry by the state and local government, has their life also gotten better? So those are questions we need to ask ourselves.
Okay, so we're picking up on the NATO strike, which is now suspended. And we've got two gentlemen joining us to discuss that this morning. The president of NATO is here, Yusuf Othman, and sitting beside him is Aliyu Audu, Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on today. Mr. Othman, well, we have read your comment about why you threatened to go on strike to stop lifting products as you directed your members. But maybe you should give us a little bit of a background, what you intended to achieve with that strike.
Okay, thank you so much. as you know, our business is movement of petroleum product and other goods and services. Now, coming to the petroleum product, hitherto, during the subsidy regime, government pays the transportation through the Petroleum Equalization Fund, that is Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Agency. Now, subsidy is gone, meaning that the marketers will have to take responsibility of moving product for themselves to their stations. So that has continued. One major problem is that since the subsidy left, there has been some outstanding payments from that May 29th to date that was owed to marketers who are also owing us. Not paid. So that is the responsibility of Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Agency to ensure they are reconciled, paid to marketers, and they pay us. That's number one. Number two, the rate that were being paid currently was what was paid during that time. And I believe every Nigerian is aware of the developments in terms of the effects and the derivatives. You know, at that time we were paying diesel about 600 Naira per liter. Today is 1,600. But it's not the responsibility of government. We are not protesting or fighting government in any case. We are buttressing our issues so that we get a succor, so that government can come in. I'm aware also the marketers have their issues. But the truth of the matter is that somebody somewhere has to bring a solution. A lot of our members have packed and they are gradually packing, most of them because this is a business that we're doing. And for you to do business, you must have returns. If there are no returns, you will not do it. So it's a wake-up call to our members and to everybody, such that to reach a time when there will not be even anybody doing it, because there's no gain. So as much as we clamor for an increase into our freight rate, it's a wake-up call. Because, let me give you an example. To transport petroleum product, officially the rate within Lagos Embarrass or Port Harcourt Embarrass, we call it local. The amount payable is 3 Naira 14 kobo. Some marketers even pay 4 Naira per liter. So if you have 40,000 liter truck, you are paid 4 Naira times 40,000, which is 160,000. And that is subject to 5% withholding tax. As of today, if you give that truck 100 liter of fuel to distribute within Lagos, that 100 liter of fuel is about 150,000.
Okay, so doesn't that also mean that you were also protesting as a result of the the freight rates and then the soaring prices of automatic gas oil?
Yes,
those were the issues.
Those were the issues, but it's not. It's the marketers that we wanted them because we've engaged them severally.
You engage the marketers.
We engage the marketers
to address
to increase the freight rate in view of the current realities.
Okay, so the marketers didn't do that?
They've tried, but now they've responded, and it's a work in progress in any case. They've responded. It's not yet to the level that is appreciated, but they are also suffering. So it's a win-win situation.
So did it matter to NATO that if NATO had embarked on that strike, it was going to affect the generality of Nigerians, because it will ultimately affect their probably movement, purchase, access to petrol and diesel, and ultimately probably the cost too. So it will affect a lot of people and not even improve that situation.
You're right, but whether NATO intervenes or NATO does not intervene, in the eyes of the public, behind the scene, a lot of people are packing. So it's just a wake-up call. A lot of people are packing. Because you need to do business, you need to have some return to do business. If you are not doing it, then what is the essence
of it? Packing? You mean packing their truck?
Yes. Because, like I told you, you pay 200,000, for example, to do a service that will eventually be paid 160. How does that add up? It doesn't add up.
So wait, now that the strike is called off,
Yes.
you're back to work immediately.
Yes.
So what changed?
Well, there is some improvement into the freight rate. And that
It's increased?
Yes. And there is a promise of further improvement in view of the situation.
Who did it? Who increased it?
Of course, the marketers.
So
But
is
the
this...
minister intervened, the NSA intervened in view of the prevailing situation.
Is this not eventually going to affect the price of petrol?
I do not think it will affect the price of the pump price you are talking about. It's not likely to affect the pump price because what they do is that they look within their margins and make some sacrifices. It's very tough, really. But it is not, well, if it is going to affect pump price, but now you would have seen changes in pump price.
So did you talk to government before now and they refused to listen to you?
We have written to the marketers on 3 different occasions. They've responded, and in those our letters, we have copied relevant government authorities of predicament. And of course, they are handicapped according to them because this is more or less a commercial transaction. So government is just there. But then it's a commercial transaction. At a certain time, the arbiter, this is the midstream and downstream regulatory agency, has to come in to have some balance. And they've realized, sincerely, that it's practically impossible to operate as we are now. So there has to be a shift. And that shift is for the marketers to look within and see how they can improve. In fact, there are some marketers even who have gone up to the level of giving diesel at a cheaper rate with a view to ensure the fuel goes to certain destinations. They are doing it.
Well, I am just a little so surprised as to how the market is functioning because it would seem that much a subsidy has been taken away on petrol, even though we understand it is back now. I am sure Mr. Audu will speak to that shortly. I don't know whether you've been looking at the headlines, and maybe we should actually come to you. But let me quickly, I just want to follow up on what it is. This is some of the comments that the NATO chairman has already made, which is, it does seem that we're still operating under a subsidy-like environment in the sense that the forces of demand and supply, or market forces, if you like, are not really what is influencing your own side of the business. Because ideally, it should be that marketers need to truck their products. If your rate is not working for me, I mean, you should ask the person, what is it going to cost for me to transport my stuff? If it's not working, and you find another person. But it doesn't seem that that's how it is. It does appear that there is still that cover. We're still trying to, let's say, free ourselves from the shackles of how we operated when subsidy was still very much in existence.
Well, I want to believe, officially, like Mr. President said, subsidy is gone, subsidy is gone. However, doing it is entirely in the hands of government. What I can say is that, the subsidy regime and change is a work in progress. Work in progress in terms of government, in terms of we, the down operators. They have a way of trying to perfect it. It will take time. Even the PIA that was approved, before it went to that level, there were some processes and some changes. So I believe it's a work in progress. Apart from moving of petroleum product, NATO, we move goods and services, other goods open body. And we price, and if you are okay, you pay, then we go.
Exactly. So it was that this particular crisis was with petroleum marketers.
No, but in this case, the petroleum marketers, the rate payable, I'm telling you, was since Buhari time. And look at the market dynamics from Buhari time to now. We buy tire. The time we were buying tire during the Buhari time was about 75,000. Today is 240,000.
Okay, what I want to know right now is that I'm not disputing the fact that things have changed in the market. What share, if you to look at your members, because you've just said that it's not only petroleum products that you truck, you also carry other goods across the country. So, what share of the market, or what share of your would I say freighters carry other goods and services, and what share would you say is dedicated to petroleum products?
Well, I believe the petroleum product is not more than 30% of the whole coverage of goods and services that move out of the country. But this is a more volatile, and this is where even the other goods that we carry are dependent on the movement of the petroleum product, because they use it not only even the airlines, everybody rely 100% on, in the whole country rely 100% on movement because there is no pipeline. But the bottom line is that the rate payable has been static. You have just spoken that. It is supposed to be determined by market forces just like that. But this has been static because the margins and probably the pump prices are more or less regulated in a deregulated market. So there's a limit to what anybody could do in the circumstance. And I don't blame government because every action government takes has a reason. Whether somebody likes it or not, there is a reason for any action. We expect it. So but all we are saying is that in the prevailing circumstance, the marketers should look at what we are spending vis-a-vis what we are being paid. There is some problem, and we need those problems addressed. I believe we have voiced our problems, and they have listened. Sincerely speaking, government, even though it's not a government problem, but government has come in, the second to the both parties, and I believe we shall progress.
Okay, I'm very, let's say, happy that you used the particular term, regulation in a deregulated market, and that's precisely what we have. That's what's still causing, some people say that's what's still causing distortions. Now, governments might argue and say, well, it's what is still giving us some stability. But stability at what cost? And maybe this what speaks to the planning that a number of people say should have happened before the announcement was made that subsidy was gone. So right now, with benefits of hindsight, looking at where we currently are, is government still thinking that maybe cat has already jumped out of the bag now? Maybe we cannot be crying over spilled milk. But do we now see why it was important to have planned for this?
I mean, we can't say enough that, we can't overemphasize the importance of planning. That's important, but we equally understand that in the environment we find ourselves, we've got to be realistic that, if Mr. President had not removed subsidy at when he did, all of this conversation would probably be different now. It would have been a lot more difficult to remove it. I mean, in all of this, we are feeling the heat, we are feeling the impact. I mean, it's called the perverse effect of otherwise good policy. We can't run away from the fact that it is expected that we go through this. However, we take solace from the fact that we've made the right decision. It's going to cost us a bit of fever, a bit of headache, a bit of challenges here and there. We will, but we'll go through it and ensure we make the best out of it. Because either way, it wasn't that we had it all good before this decision was taken. For years. Let's remember that whatever it is we are facing through now are things that Mr. President himself had expressed, some 11, 12 years ago. People say when he was in the opposition, you learn every day. There are a lot of things that sentiments are logic. We
learn every day, but at what cost? That's a big question. At what cost? When a leader is learning, it usually means that mistakes have been made and sometimes lives have been lost. It's a big cost. You say we'll go through a bit of, but what is currently happening is not a bit. It's a lot of pains. When you look at the front pages this morning, dollar hits 1,900 Naira, pound 2,250 Naira. This is a reality that a number of people never saw coming, or would never have thought was even possible. I mean, I think worst case scenario, when people were imagining these things, they talked about how dollar could hit 1,000 Naira. A number of people thought that was the worst that could happen. Now we're talking 1,900. It's unimaginable. So when one is really wondering if government has a solution, I think I deviate. There's a question I wanted to ask you, which is the fact that, I mean, you've been seeing the headline, subsidy is back. Is government going to admit that subsidy indeed is back?
No, let's take it from when Mr. President made the announcement. I mean, apart from what he said at the Eagle Square, when he addressed the nation and he talked about the removal of subsidy when all of those interventions were announced, he did say something that maybe a lot of people didn't take seriously, but of course, he did say something that, the government is monitoring situation and will intervene, when required to. He said this to the nation when he addressed the nation on this. It's, as much as we want these things regulated, we understand the impact it's got on Nigerian citizens. Nobody is immune from the effect of all of this. So it is the responsibility of government at whatever time to ensure that, okay, while we are doing the right thing, we must ensure that, we do not end up, removing the market while we are trying to stabilize the market. I mean, if the people who who operate this market can't operate anymore because of the hardship caused by all of this, then it means we have no market to regulate. So it's the responsibility of government to intervene at any time or every time required to, so as to ensure that while we made the right turn, we've taken the right decision to address the impact that's coming with the right decision. Government still needs to ensure that we're not just pushing all of the impact on the citizen, as a lot of people would like to think. No, it's the gradual thing. The biggest step is actually deciding to move away from one policy that does not entirely integrate us with the global practice. We can't isolate we can't operate in isolation as a nation. So we're going to have to align ourselves with the global standards. While we're doing that, we understand that there are some local challenges that are going to affect the lives and the livelihood and the welfare and security of the citizens. So it is the government responsibility to intervene in ways required that, okay, we're doing what we need to do. These are the impact that's coming up. We are handling in such a way that, we're not overly trying to be all, firm, and it's not, it's about the people at the end of the day, and that's exactly what
I don't know if economists will say that what is happening with petrol is an intervention. I think some people would say that what has happened is a failure of the policy that government has come up with, and that's the reason why subsidy has come back in that sector. If you say intervention, I mean, like flotation of the Naira now, when market forces are determining what they're determining, if the CBN were to say, oh, we're going to give the banks or BDCs, as it were, a certain amount of millions of dollars to stabilize the price or to crash the price, that will be an intervention. But a situation whereby backdoor government is somehow subsidizing and not even admitting that this is what it has done, then, there are big questions as to whether that is an intervention or a failure of an initial policy that has come up. But my colleague, Ayo, has questions for you.
Let me begin with what you just said now. There's a conversation you had, Malkwa, with Mr. Othman earlier, where you talked about regulation in a deregulated market. Mr. Audu, is that something you think is happening as well? That in one way or the other, government is regulating in a deregulated market so that the people do not feel the pinch too much?
I mean, it's not easy to place it. I mean, if you say trying to regulate a deregulated market, it's not exactly that. It's the fact that we know that we have an economy that has been built on a particular system, in a particular way over the decades, and it's got. We have a culture that has been designed around how we used to operate. Changing, isn't going to just happen, and we don't expect side effects. Part of managing change, the change management, is a call on government to intervene in such a way that the main goal of regulation isn't lost. The regulation isn't lost while we are trying to, ensure that we do not kill the economy. We do not act as if we do not understand the impact this has got on the economy or the livelihood of citizens. Whether we like it or not, regulation is all for the betterment of the citizen. If at any point in time we know where we're going, to get there, we need to carry everybody along. We need to move together. If there are things on the side of the government that needs to be done as we move in that direction, then it's got to be done. That's what government is doing.
I find it interesting that you use that term that we know where we're going. That government knows where it is going, and you also said that government needs to carry the people along. Well, permit me to use the example of the Israelites living in the land of Egypt. It was clear where they were going, a land flowing with milk and honey. Even that was not easy for the people to bear. There were a lot of stops on the way, but they had an idea where they were going, a land flowing with milk and honey. Where is Nigeria going? What is the vision of this government? What is the vision of the political class? It's a question many Nigerians are still asking. I don't know if you can offer an answer to that, but let me ask you this one. When you said the other time that, there was some plan, Imakwe asked you, was there a plan? And you said, that there was some kind of plan, that you cannot underestimate the situation of planning, particularly because Mr. President announced that subsidy was gone. Was it this president that announced that the subsidy was gone? Because what we understand was that the previous government said that subsidy will still be subsistent until about June of last year. So when this president announced that subsidy was gone, he was merely reiterating what was the stand at the time. So are you saying that the previous government that announced that they had removed subsidy, but that it'll terminate in June, had no plan on ground?
The situation changed. In the last 12 months of previous government, a lot changed. Let's be honest. And like we said, the last government is our responsibility. This government is our responsibility. And as government, all of the previous governments are our responsibility because we are in charge now. It's sometimes when we try to make explanation to the citizen, it isn't about passing the blame, or it's about putting things in perspective in a way that we all understand where we've been, what has happened, what needs to change, what can't continue, and what can't continue. And you have to make references, to previous. It's not, as at the time Mr. President came in, it was clear that by the plan he has for what he intended to do, what he requested for this job. He had a plan. His team has got a plan requested for this job, irrespective of what's on ground. If we are to integrate, to play fairly and efficiently in the global market, we have to play by the standards that the global market players are playing with. Over the years, over the decades, we've taken sentiments and over logic. We have to move into where we ought to play, and this requires that we play by the rules. The last government probably had reasons, for not removing it as at when they didn't remove it. But the coming of Mr. President knew we have to do what we have to do, however difficult it is. And that is why we have confidence in Mr. President, because at some point the leader's going to make the tough calls. It's not going to be easy. We can't have it. If it's that good and we want it to be good, then we know anything good isn't going to come easy.
I'm not sure you are answering my question, Mr. Audu. My apologies. I'm not sure that you're answering the question. I'm just asking whether there was a plan on ground by the previous government who announced that there is some provision until June in the budget of 2023 for subsidy. The President Tinubu came and announced subsidy is gone. It doesn't sound like he was saying that subsidy is gone because I'm now removing it. His previous statement actually said, well, the previous government made such an arrangement, consequently subsidy is gone. So the question that I'm asking is, was there a plan by the previous government that this government inherited to ensure that this subsidy regime that has been removed does not bite too hard on the people?
The previous government expiration was the 29th of May, and if the allocation for subsidy was until June, which was just a few days after that, That in itself is a plan. The government who has come in, look at the plan and look at how this subsidy has been maintained over the decades. I mean, there was a process that wasn't exactly the best prior to that June preparation for the removal. You know, we can keep pushing, you know, that for as long as we want to, but someone at some point is going to take the bull by the horn and say, okay, this is what we did. It is no longer realistic for us to keep doing what we've been doing, hoping to get a different result. We've got to change strategy. And that's exactly where we are. But we have a culture where we are changing strategy. We had a culture that is being built around the previous system. It's going to take a bit of time to turn that around. Yes, there was a plan. Yes, there is a plan. But the plan itself isn't, you know, it's not a magic wand. It's not like a switch that you put on and off. It's a process. It's going to take time. It's going to take planning. It's going to take implementation. And implementation is through an existing system that we largely accept is flawed. All of this will come in. This is exactly what the responsibility of the current government is. Take over everything the last government has done, plus and minus, and move forward with it in the direction that fits into where we want to be and how to get there in the quickest short period of time.
Othman, part of the conversation that you had, your response to Marquez's question, you know, was in the line of, you know, the federal government calling a meeting and everyone sitting down. When she asked you exactly what it was Chamberlain that was asking what has changed, you said that there's been a shift by the marketers. So what was the federal government's contribution to that intervention, to this resolution that has seen to NATO lifting its ban or its strike, or suspending its strike?
First of all, the federal government invited us, and they had the issues on table, and they also invited the marketers. They also had marketers issue on table, and marketers promised to of course, look at our requests. So at the end of the day, we met somewhere. And there was, at that time, need for us to look at especially the security situation of the country, which was reiterated by the NSA as well as the Minister of Petroleum Gas and other relevant government officials. So we had no choice than to, of course, resume the normal operations. In any case, it is not in our interest to stop operations because that is our daily bread. Any day we stop operation, we lose money, and we have a lot of boys everywhere. And of course, to bring a lot of chaos to already existing chaos that is happening in the country. So by and large, it's a call for them to look at our payment, and they have listened. And they have promised, and of course, the promise to continue to look at the payment as the situation goes on.
Was there any contribution, financial contribution or palliative to you, to your association, or to the marketers? Because as you said, it's a business. No one wants to lose money. PIA says it's a deregulated market. Well, there are those who believe it's not completely deregulated. So was there any financial intervention, any contribution from the federal government, maybe to you or to the marketers, that helped to resolve this strike so quickly?
Well, there is actually no financial contribution from the point of government. The only thing is that there are outstanding payments belonging to the marketers, and of course, some of those payments that belong to the marketers also belong to some of us. So there is a promise to make immediate payment of those outstanding payments. Government does not have any plan in any way to inject anything into this commercial transaction. The only thing government can do is to intervene to avoid rancor, and that's exactly what they've done.
Is it true that, I mean, the union squeezes members? Because there might be some members who will feel, look, we don't have to join this strike. And so if they don't join the strike, the union will muscle them and ensure that everybody joins the strike.
Well, that's not to my knowledge. I want to believe anybody that is operating within the system, like I've just said, nobody wants to operate at a loss. We are doing into business to get money. If you send me to do a business for you or to do an errand for you, you pay me 100 Naira and I go and spend 150 Naira. Naturally, whoever is doing that knows is operating at a loss. You don't have to be told to park or to, in fact, we'll be begging them to manage and continue to operate in view of the circumstance. And it is better for the government or whoever that somebody that you have a focal point you are talking to in case of any trouble than for everybody to go astray.
Let me find out from you quickly, for the other goods which you ferry across the country, have their prices, have their rates changed?
Yes, of course. They reflect the market forces.
What kind of goods, by the way?
Grains, some container, some buses. I'm sure if you know, some buses from Jabi to several places, you know, is the market forces at the time, and they pay instant. In fact, some people will have to receive a lot, even if we have called MIPS. But our own, and it is choice that we have been doing, our own. I have some places that I have worked since December, and I have not received payment. But I'm comfortable with the company because we have history. Mm-hmm. You understand? Then it's okay. In fact, some of the companies, like I said, they give us fuel at a discounted rate. But it's whether discount or it's not fuel that is only our problem. We have other we have tire that has gone up. We have battery. We have a lube. You know, even the truck itself, before now, the Tokumbo vehicle is about 25 million. I hope you understand what I mean by Tokumbo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because
she looks like she
should be, yes. So, you know.
Well, I look like I might not know what second hand is.
No, I just want to remind you. Well, I know Tokumbo. So, in any case, brand new one now.
Yes.
If you ask Larry Shitu and whatever, it's about 70 million Naira.
And the Tokumbo one costs how much?
Tokumbo is about 25 to 30 million. Just the head. When you add the tank, it's about the tank is about 25 billion. When you sum it out, it's a lot of money. But somebody has to do it. We realize the motto of NATO is service to the nation. Irrespective of the fact that it's a commercial transaction, we have realized today fuel is distributed across the country by trucks, no pipelines. So if there is no pipeline, somebody has to do it. We could not afford to continue this action for more than 1, 2, 3 days.
All right, we need to go. Ali, could you tell us, with all of these things going on, of course you have people who keep asking the question, is government really, do they really understand what we're faced with? Do they have it in control?
Yes. I mean, I can tell you that there are meetings going on day and night, and there are a lot of people putting heads together and ensure that, you know, the current situation is addressed to ensure we keep, I mean, it's not easy to ask for patience from people who have been patient over a long period of time without result. Government understand, Mr. President understand, and the team understand that we are not excluded from the system. We are part of the system. We must, you know, collectively understand that, like we know, take away the subsidy removal, take away the unification of the FX policy. We all, for those who know, you know, it's easy for us to try to echo the sound bites of people who do not know. You know, not everybody who speaks actually know where we are. We are not in existence by ourselves. We are not in existence in isolation.
All right.
So the system understands, the government understands, the president understands. But while we've taken this bold step, we have seen the side effects. We have seen impact. Going back isn't an option. So all we are doing as a government is trying to now carry everybody on board, make it easier for all of us while we head in the direction that we need to head.
I think the response from people overall, I think, will be, above all else, they need to be seen to be walking the talk. So that's what's up at the moment. Well, Ali Adu is the Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. We also have had Mr. Yusuf Othman, the President of NATO. Thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Well, the figures, I think they may be looking south, but who knows? When they all go north, I don't know what business might come up with. That's what's coming up on this.
NGX anyway. Well, I think also in the currencies market, we've been struggling with that Naira falling in spite of efforts by the government. I guess we cannot give up. The government cannot give up. But we'll talk about that and a whole lot more in the next 30 minutes. The 30 minutes starts now. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. And we start from the global space where oil prices regained some ground in Asian trade on Wednesday amid concerns over attacks on shipping in the Red Sea and growing expectations that cuts to U.S. interest rates will take longer than thought. Brent crude futures rose, looking at the number right there, 0.36% to $82.64 a barrel. That's for Brent. WTI, this is regained. Remember, yesterday it was in the red. WTI is also positive, 0.34%, $77.30 a barrel. And of course, the tension at the Red Sea is still a major driver of that. The Brent and WTI contracts fell 1.5% and 1.4% respectively from near 3-week highs on Tuesday as a premium for prompt U.S. crude futures to the second-month contracts more than doubled to $1.71 a barrel. And that's the widest level in roughly 4 months. That encourages energy companies to sell now rather than pay to store products for future months. It's becoming very uncertain. The premium slid to 4 cents a barrel on Wednesday. Back here in Nigeria, around the globe, the oil space, NATO national president, he spoke to Sunrise Daily a couple of minutes ago. Well, they've directed members to immediately resume petrol loading activities after a meeting that was held in Abuja. That's the meeting right there. It was gathered that the meeting was attended by the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Mr. Heineken Lukobiri, with NATO oil marketers, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and even IPMAN, the petrol marketers, were also there. Of course, this follows a meeting with the federal government and stakeholders after tanker drivers suspended operations and stopped lifting of petroleum products amid harsh economic reality. NATO members have threatened to shut down all over the country beginning from Monday over the high cost of automotive gas oil, also known as diesel, which is used to fuel the trucks for movement of petroleum products across Nigeria. The association explained that the decision to withdraw its operation was because of high operational costs in the industry, I must add, also other industries. Unfortunately, it seems back here in Lagos, the queues are still on the road, especially in the non-NNPC filling station. That's the private marketers. We still see a long queue right there. Wonder what else is left, or perhaps the tanker drivers haven't gotten to Lagos yet, even though we know they take off from Lagos. But these are issues we will stay here on Channels Television, so you don't want to miss any of our programs. We'll then have more conversation on that at 1 p.m. during Business Incorporated. So stay with us and see what else we will unravel in that value chain. Now, it's no longer news that 6G has potential to revolutionize the way we experience connectivity, while the prospects of 7G come with even greater ease for work and play. However, these come with a responsibility to address new risks from cybersecurity threats to ethical considerations, ensuring that they pave way for secure and inclusive digital future. The Nigerian Communication Commission, as the NCC, considered this, and they had a risk management conference in Lagos, southwest Nigeria. Emerging technologies in the telecom industry come with risks. And with Nigeria operating with over 200 million mobile subscribers, there's the need to highlight emerging trends and ways to cut the risks. The Nigeria Communication Commission has these in focus at its Risk Management Conference.
You will have noticed how rapidly things have been changing, not only in our own environment, but globally. A lot of these changes have brought about very rapid developments or changes. You can imagine if any organization hadn't looked that far ahead to see what led ahead, I mean, how much of an impact that would be.
Then a panel to speak on not just the dangers, but protection strategies.
According to ISO, the essence of risk management is really to create value and also to preserve or protect value within the organization. And if risk management is going to be able to achieve that, it is critical that risk management moves beyond just another department and moves to the center of strategy.
What does this mean for you and I on an everyday basis? When you get your devices, because we are always happy to know what's the latest trend. I have the latest gadget, I can plug to the internet, I can monitor my devices remotely. For you as a consumer, right, what are you going to do about that? You always have to ensure you have strong password and encryption measures integrated into your own home base, and also the operators will do likewise.
The Chartered Risk Management Institute intends to take this conversation further.
We are taking a bill to the National Assembly for risk management function to be part of every MDA. Risk management has come to stay, and it is necessary that the public sector also imbibe the risk management practice.
While development in technology makes tasks and living easier, the downside management requires attention from individuals, the government, and corporations. Oh, talking about risks, but another type of risk now, the African Development Bank Group has warned countries like Nigeria, Kenya, Angola, with the depreciation of the value in their currency, we may see more protests and surge in inflation. Well, I must say FDB has been busy in Nigeria. Yesterday was another one. But now we're going to talk with the Vice President for Finance and Chief Financial Officer joining us there, Ms. Hassatu Nesele. And she's going to be speaking on one effort of the bank. On the 30th of January 2024, the AFDB launched a hybrid capital transaction with a coupon of 5.75%. It's supposed to last until August 2034 with a 10.5-year first call date at the bank's discretion. We're going to discuss more about this and perhaps what plans or how this can help in the tense situation that Nigeria's economy is at this time. So thank you so much, Vice President Ms. Nesele. Thank you so much, and for joining us this morning. Kindly help us understand this hybrid capital. What is it about? How does it trickle down to the people from government?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Hybrid capitals are financial instruments that combine both features of debt and equity, and they do serve as a middle ground between traditional bonds and stocks. So while hybrid capital have been widely used in the international financial markets, they have not necessarily been used within the MDB, Multilateral Development Bank community. And in fact, given the formidable mandate that we have at the African Development Bank Group, the multiple crises that our continent is facing, and our limited, capital, in face of the formidable mission that we have. We do have an authorized capital of $208 billion and a risk capital of $15 billion. But we thought, we knew that it was important for us to increase our financing capacity. So the African Development Bank has really been at the forefront of innovation with regards to balance sheet optimization, and hybrid capital structured as equity is one of the latest innovation that we're able to launch. It was 3 years of work. This is a transaction that is perpetual, so it never matures. But we do have the capacity to call it or to redeem it after 10.5 years. And these structures allows us to account for hybrid capital as pure equity. So basically, $5 billion of hybrid capital to the African Development Bank is about $20 billion of additional financing that we can provide to the continent. So these instruments has really gained recognition by the Multilateral Development Bank community. We've had engagement with the G20. The instrument is featured as a recommendation in their report. And we are very proud to have launched this very successful transaction, which was really very well received by the capital markets. Landmark and groundbreaking are some of the adjectives that have been used. So, we're proud to have led the way for the Multilateral Development Bank, but first and foremost for Africa, because it will increase our capacity to lend.
So you looking at the allocation now, the details of it, you did say that central banks and official institutions could get about 6.7%. I'm also interested in the banks, commercial banks and private banks, 4.1%. What does it mean that our central bank, pardon me, I want to focus on Nigeria right now. I know we're talking about Africa. Our Central Bank of Nigeria, and the commercial banks can access part of this allocation?
The transaction was done, so it's been completed, but it is the first of many to come. We've had extensive roadshows conducted last year. We've met more than 150 investors, and hence, the size of the book, the level of interest, the quality of the book as well, and the very tight pricing that we're able to gain for such a perpetual transaction global after 10 years. So with regards to Africa, we would welcome new investors. So we had investors for which the instrument was new, the name was new, and they wanted to wait to see how that first transaction went before participating. So in our plan is to continue our extensive work with African institutional investors, including central banks, Nigeria, and elsewhere in Africa, in order to interest them to the structure and going forward to have them as investors, because they know that the resources that they're going to put in this issuance from the African Development Bank are resources that are certainly going to find their ways back into Nigeria.
So do you monitor to ensure that this capital is used for social and environmental,
Absolutely. One of the innovations as well of this transaction is that this was a sustainable hybrid capital. And hybrid capital, basically by doing this, we've created the start of a new asset class in financial markets. And it's something that is going to be part of our funding tool. But yes, hybrid capital that is sustainable. So basically what it means is that we will be using that to fund social and green projects throughout the continent. We've had our framework for sustainable bond reviewed by a second party. We use Moody's, very good assessment. We are following all the major financial markets guidance, being ICMA, for the green bond principles, the social bond principles. And actually, the African Development Bank is today the largest multilateral development bank issuer of social bonds. And also we've been active in the green bond market. So so this shows you that we do have the capacity to unlend there. And if you think of it, the mandate of the African Development Bank is really one that is social and green, because we are also mandated to help Africa gradually transition to green growth. So we adhere to the best market practices.
All right, and it's good, to also ensure that it gets down there to the members who are going to use this fund. But thank you so much, Vice President for Finance and Chief Financial Officer of AFDB, Ms. Hassatu Nsele.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's good to talk about green and, financing and ensuring that it also takes into cognizance social and environmental issues. But it's also good to talk about our reality at this time in Nigeria. Of course, the high cost of living is also affecting manufacturers. We saw NATO there. Thank God they've called off their strike. But what about industries? Well, let's delve into that now, as we have joining us Mr. Paul Odunaya. He's the Managing Director, WEMI Industries. Good morning, Mr. Odunaya.
Good morning.
I know that, you're not immune, or your company is not immune to what's going on in the country at this time. And you're here to share us how you've been surviving, strategies you've used to survive this very harsh macroeconomic realities. But first of all, let's hear how it's affecting you as a Managing Director of WEMI Industries.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's been affecting us for a number of years. There's been a trend whereby the currency has been devaluing slowly, but of recently it's increased dramatically. But when we saw that trend, we started looking outwards. We started looking to other African countries where we could sell our goods. And fortunate for us, the CFA, the currency in our neighboring countries, is a lot more stronger than the Naira. It's at least twice as strong as in Naira.
That's sad. It never used to be like that, though.
Yes, true, as I was being told. But when we started investigating, we found out other West African countries are a lot more stable economically, and they have a stronger purchasing power. So that just encourages us to focus outward.
Is this a kind of jackpot?
It's a kind of product jackpot. You can call it that way. But it's a smarter jackpot because you don't have to go that far to solve your problems. You can actually just go to your neighboring countries, which is not too far from us.
Yeah. Doesn't that take away the jobs we're looking for, employment in Nigeria? The real number I hear using our old methodology is about 40.6%, even though the NBS put it at 5%. So doesn't that take away part of these opportunities? How do you compensate us? I mean...
No, it doesn't. It increases our capacity to produce because the demand from Nigeria and other African countries increases. You start employing French-speaking Nigerians because you need to speak French. You start looking for banks who can operate in those regions as well. So it increases capacity, increases jobs. Actually, it doesn't do the opposite.
So tell us about Brown's baby and adult diapers, which is, I think, your major product.
Yes, so in order to export, we looked at the product lines that will suit us for the export market. So in Nigeria, we're the leading adult diaper manufacturer in the country. We are the only adult diaper manufacturer in the whole of West Africa. And that gives us a leverage to supply not only Nigeria, we can also supply other West and Central African countries. So that capacity is what we've been building over there, and it's helping us hedge against the difficult, challenging environment as people will now buy local rather than import.
Local now, you mean Africa?
Nigeria and Africa is now local for us.
That's good. I mean, when we look at things like AFTA, obviously this fits into it. But tell us, I know you said one of your hedge at this time, talking about currency fluctuation, which the Naira is facing, is to embrace the neighboring country. But what about issues of getting things through? I think I saw that customs duties and, you know, they keep increasing. The rate keeps increasing. I think there's been another one. I haven't confirmed that. You know, how do you get through with all of this?
It is a challenge. We constantly looking for ways we can backward integrate without importing. It's very difficult. One of the lines we're looking at is cotton, for example. We use cotton in one of our raw materials, and we are recently started talking to farmers who can farm cotton for us, so we can process the cotton, then use it in our manufacturing process. So constantly looking for ways to use our comparative advantage rather than always looking to import is what we need to do. Sometimes it's a small thing you need to do that makes a huge difference.
You know, that cotton is very interesting. Do you have to import now, or do you get all you need from Nigeria, or at least from Africa?
So we take some from Nigeria and we supplement with importation. But ideally, what we need to do is to get everything from Nigeria, and that's what we're working on at the moment.
And the government has its hands full at this time. Any low-hanging fruit you think the government can help with?
I think the best advice I can give government is not to focus on the petroleum industry. It's not the CBN or the financial managers that will solve our problems. It's actually industry that will solve our economic problems, and it should be more focused on agriculture and trade and industry. I think that's the core heavy lifters of solving our current economic problems.
And unfortunately now, agricultural sector is being plagued by the insecurity. A lot of farmers cannot go to their farm, they can't produce, and that obviously trickles down to your production.
It does affect us, but I think realistically, it's not all the parts of Nigeria that has insecurity. There are parts of the country which have security. So why don't we ensure those places farm and work and get the best of that while we try and solve the other aspects of the country where there's insecurity?
So you work with farmers now?
We are in conversation with some farmers to help us in the southwest, which is fairly more safer, and some farmers up north as well to give us cotton. But yeah, we're in discussions, yeah.
Okay, well, we should have more of that. Now, you're in partnership with Arua Capital and Alita. They've contributed to WEMI Industries. Tell us their role and tell us about this partnership.
So Arua Capital and Alita Capital have been investors in WEMI. They've been supporting our business. Our business is very female-centric, if you know. We manufacture baby diapers, sanitary pads, hygiene, health products. And most of the stakeholders in our business are women, and they're coming from They support female lens, how do I describe it? Female supporting businesses so that women can be empowered in our businesses. So they are big supporters of our business, and they're very good investors in our business.
Yeah, I wanted to say, is it because it's women? That's why I have WEMI Industries. Is that where you get the name from?
Actually, WEMI is an acronym of my father's name, Wemimimo.
Oh, okay.
So it's shortened as WEMI. But the founders, my mother is was a medical doctor who came up with the idea of the business. So
it's a bit of everything, the name and the gender and all of that.
So it's a Nigerian business. It's 100% Nigerian business, not a foreign business.
Great. So you also have a new business venture. You call it Rockies.
Right. So we in a way to diversify, we have a small ice manufacturing business called Rock Ice.
Okay, Rock Ice.
Yeah. So we manufacture ice cubes. In an industrial scale, and we supply most of the Lagos area with ice. Most on the island, parties, and it's industrial. It's not your typical type. It's an industrial level manufacturing. So, and in that sense, there's no FX involved. It's just water.
Well, you need infrastructure, power.
Yeah, we have.
So you talked about the government not focusing too much on petrol and the petroleum. You need it a lot here. Or are you using solar? That would be nice.
We're using a mixture of our own power and.
What do you mean your own power? What's the source?
So we have diesel generators, we have industrial lines, and because we have a large manufacturing footprint, we can share the power amongst our other businesses. So it makes the cost of running that a lot smaller.
And
economic of scale, advantage of economic of scale is what we leverage.
Yeah. Okay, so just tell us, we know things are not looking very smooth now in the country, but you still have local industries like yours, providing employment and striving to get ahead in spite of it all. Do you see us getting out all of this soon? We heard a lot of policies and meetings from the government, so we can't say the government is not working. So do you see us getting out of this dark?
I believe so, and I can tell you that it is in the pain that we come up with solutions. And I can tell you a lot of businesses are looking for solutions to get ourselves out of this mess. And I'm not really looking at government to solve this problem. I'm looking at entrepreneurs to solve this problem. But yes, we'll be out of this mess. Definitely.
But entrepreneurs need the right environment, which is where the government comes in.
Well, we've been thriving in spite of government for a long time, and I think we'll continue to do so for a long time. I think a lot more entrepreneurs have learned that they have to try and thrive in spite of government. Although we need government support, but we'll continue to strive.
Yeah, and I mean, necessity is the mother of invention anyway.
Correct.
So if the dollar becomes inaccessible at this time, perhaps this will force even the manufacturers to look local.
So let me even reveal a lot of manufacturers already looking for their own source of dollar. I know of a manufacturer.
Looking for their source of dollar?
Yes, so they are already creating their own businesses that will create those. So I know a company looking at investing in sesame seed to generate dollar for their business. There are other companies going to cashew nuts to generate dollar for their business. So the entrepreneurs are already looking at solutions. They're not waiting on government. And we're already doing ours as well. So that's what I can tell people to know, that solutions are already being cooked up as we speak. And it might take a couple more years for those solutions to come to fruition.
I wonder how we'll survive in that years we have to wait for it.
We will survive, but it's going to take a lot of pain. And that pain is necessary for us to change our habits and change the way we do business in Nigeria, unfortunately so.
Yeah, changing habits, I think, is a major one, because I think a lot of us Nigerians, we've gotten used to imported goods, and that is one of the source of our challenge at this time. But anyways, thank you so much for coming on the program. Is there any other thing you want us to know about WEMI Industries?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, WEMI Industries is over 45 years old. We manufacture baby wipes, baby diapers, sanitary pad, Nightingale underlay pads, and we just pray and continue to wish for people to continue to patronize our business, basically.
And we pray that you continue, especially being a local industry.
So we can employ more people.
Exactly.
More Nigerians.
And don't take our employment to neighboring countries.
No, that's not happening, but for all of us, basically.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Chief Executive Officer of WEMI Industries, Mr. Paulo Odunaya, thank you and wish you the best
Thank you very much.
in the midst of all of this.
Thank you.
All right, now let's head to the markets and see what's going on right there. Yesterday, we expected it to be a red market, and actually it was talking about the NGX. The numbers went south. Chamberlain said that just at the beginning it was down 1.30%. The all-share index is still at 101,000 there. Look at that red, very red. 101,060.67. Equities cap is down from 56 trillion naira. Where did this money go? Into investors' accounts. 55.298, down 730 billion naira, shaved off the market value at the close of trade yesterday. We go to the activity and we see more blood there, very red, from the volume, which was down 6.46%, to the value, down 11%, to the deals that normally gives us a bit of comfort, even that was down 9.37%. Market correction is what our market analyst yesterday, Mr. Wobo, called it. So let's take it as a normal market cycle. It will cycle back into the green. Looking at the sectors, we see that banking lost 2.37%, consumer goods less than 1%, industrial goods had the biggest. I think it was Dangote Cement dropped this 3.62%. Insurance lost a whole 3%, almost 4%, in fact. I mean, this is a very flexible and fragile sector we're trying to build, and now it's going down 3.89%. So even the penny stocks are now being affected. Oil and gas was the only survivor yesterday, 0.21% in the green. Top trades, Transcorp, UBA, Fidelity were the top trades. Now let's go to the small unlisted market. They were positive. 0.96%, still around 1,167.95. Market cap above 1.5 trillion naira at the close of trade. The activity chart looking attractive yesterday. That's for the NESD. We had volume up more than 300%. Value also up. Deals, I mean, look at it looking so good. These are the unlisted markets. So I think investors just stroll there and stroll out at will. Stocks traded were just 9 for yesterday. So let's hope there'll be a bit of recovery at the close of trade today. That's for the NGX. And of course, the fixed income market, we'll talk about that at 1 p.m. Don't want to miss Business Incorporated. There was an auction, and the result came out late yesterday. So we'll talk about it later at 1 p.m. today on Business Incorporated. So it's back to you guys on the Sunrise Daily.
A report of the Joint Committees on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, Finance, National Planning and Appropriation on the state of the economy. The report, which also emerged from an interaction with the President's Economic Management team, recommended the urgent need to bring down inflation.
This issue of high cost of living is real. All of us here operate from the market, whether you go directly or you sell your relative or your stewards. My problem, sir, is that the agreements already reached between the federal government and Labour with regards to the 35,000 naira increase the salaries. I was told as of yesterday it was only paid twice. What is happening to the additional naira that is accruing to the federation account?
Even local governments, their grants, their allocations from the federation account has increased. They should also go out there, procure grains, and distribute. What we have at hand is not the sole responsibility of the federal government to solve. The entire system must come together, must collaborate to make sure we do the needful.
Before we conclude this debate today, the rate of Naira may have moved to 1,900. What does this suggest? we're in a state of emergency when it comes to management of our economy. Something must be wrong.
The debate gathered momentum following recommendations for further investigation into the 10 trillion naira anchor borrower scheme, as well as the federal government's Ways and Means loans. The need for clarity became expedient.
It is classified as obligation, 30 trillion. This debt overhang, Mr. President, is responsible for the problems we're having, which nobody says he knows the detail, how they spent that money. Outside 809-something billion, which this parliament, this Senate approved.
We have colossal amount of money given to the banks. And this amount runs into trillions of naira. Some of the governors that benefited from that 18 billion naira are here.
Distinguished Senator Ndume, you were there when the Ways and Means were approved.
Check, I was not there, check the record. And as I said, number one, wait now, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot approve illegality. What they did was illegal. The Senate doesn't have the right. Let it be on record. I was not there. I was not there. Check the record. I was not there, but you were there. But I was not there. I was not there.
No one wanted to be culpable, but everyone was interested in the unfolding narrative. However, the former president of the Senate clarified the figures before a resolution is taken.
What the 9th National Assembly approved or ratified in terms of Ways and Means was not 29 or 30 trillion. It was 22. But there was 819 billion to attend to deal and address very serious infrastructural dilapidations that we had across the country. So if we have a Ways and Means that is 30 today, that means something happened between then and now. And it's for the National Assembly to find out what happened.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that the ad hoc committee be set up to interrogate the details of the Ways and Means, their disbursements and usage, particularly the intervention programs such as the Anchor Borrowers program, such as excess funding in the power sector, such as monies given to manufacturers and banks, and the airlines, and etc., to show up, which of course increase the current debt profile of the country.
Now, investigating the legality or otherwise of the Ways and Means loans was just part of the recommendations. The Senate committee also canvassed for more security, technology and incentives to farmers to boost agriculture productivity. Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
Senator Yusuf joins us here this morning. He was a former chairman of the Senate Committee on Special Duties. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Well,
nice to be around.
We had your colleagues arguing there who was or who wasn't there. But clearly, you were there at the time, weren't you?
I was.
Was Senator Ndume also there? He said he wasn't.
Well, he was a member of the Senate, and whether he was there or not there, I'm sure that day he must have signed to have been in the chamber. But whether he was there at the time of the debate or not is another thing.
So, talk to us then about this, because this is a huge matter in this country. Many wonder, how could Senate, at this time, the Senate that you were in, how could they have allowed themselves or allowed that to happen under their watch?
Well, thank you very much. You know, there's something they call doctrine of necessity. It has happened before, and that is what has actually happened. You see, there was this amount of 819 billion naira. It was to cover for infrastructural, decay. Now, whether the need for it arose at that time, but there was necessity for that infrastructural, expenditure at that point in time. And then it came in from the point of view of Ways and Means. That means federal government borrowing from CBN. So, and then that was added to the 22 trillion, that was outstanding at that material time.
No, but before the 18 Some 817, thereabout.
819.
819.
Yeah.
The 22 had already been done.
Yeah.
Did the Senate approve it at the point?
Well, you see, ways and means is a critical factor in deficit financing. You know, and when we are talking about deficit budgeting, it is a deficiency in the difference between expenditure and revenue that brings about the issue of ways and means. So federal government, can approach CBN as its own banker, for an overdraft. So,
without permission or approval from the Senate?
Well, it ought to have been part and parcel of the budget before the approval of the budget.
But in this case, it wasn't.
But in this case, it didn't. Not because probably it was a build-up. It is not just the 33 billion was just in 1 year. It was a build-up from 2015, up till 2023. That's how it built
so
up.
So they built it up at that time without approval up until the 817 or 19 came. Yeah. Then they found out that, wait a minute, how did you get here in the first place?
Well, it was certainly an issue that ought to have been considered seriously. But you see, that thing came about at the tail end of the 9th Assembly, and there was need for that 819 billion naira to be merged with this so that we can have
to be merged with the one that had built up
exactly
over 20-something trillion.
Because without it merging, that means there wouldn't have been approval for the 819.
So this appeared as though they had to twist the Senate at that time in the guise of approving that 819 and then justifying. That means there was that overall approval to cover for the ones that had been done before that was not approved.
Exactly, that was it. But you see, some of us, in the Senate, there are some that are against, some that are for, but in the final analysis is the vote that counts. So whether you like it or not, if the vote
what side were
yes,
you on?
I was on the first of all, amend the CBN Act to accommodate what we want to do with ways and means. Because Section 38 is very, very clear as to what ways and means and how it can be managed. It is 5% of the last year's revenue of government. So, and now that amount, must be cleared within that financial year. Thirdly, that amount cannot be securitized. Cannot be converted into treasury bills, cannot be converted into bonds and what have you. So what we said at that point in time was, look, if we want to do this, let us amend the CBN Act. Amend Section 38 of the CBN Act to accommodate what we want to do.
That was not done?
That was not done.
So they just approved it without amending it to go the right way?
So that's what happened.
Senator, I'm just, sitting now, I mean, this is where we all are.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a nicer word, because when we say it has finally hit the fan, what they say has hit the fan, and it is, affecting everybody.
Yeah.
Senators included. I mean, Senator Shomole made reference to that. Yeah. And this is where we are. Can members of the 9th Senate, under whose watch, because not only did they have powers for appropriation, which the National Assembly has, but they also had powers for oversight to ensure that the laws are followed. Can members of the 9th Assembly now, looking at the mess that the whole of the country is in, can they really thump their chest and say they did their best by this country?
Well, yes, within circumstances. That's why I mentioned the word doctrine of necessity. Because within their own powers at that material time, they had to do what they did in order to save, certain expenditures to happen.
Certain expenditures that has dug a deeper hole. It's like, and people said this at that time, that we were in a hole and we were digging another deeper hole to cover up the hole that we were in. That's basically what we're done. And right now, we're even deeper in the hole as it is. And there we have a Senate president who is now an ordinary member of the National Assembly, saying, oh, no, this is not the figure we approved. This was this figure we approved. But at that time, there were senators who were crying that this was in contravention of the CBN Act. It was against the law. Can senators actually just say it was okay for them to have gone against the law? They make laws.
No. It was not against the law. It was a conditional approval. Remember, subject to the provision of how the money was used for and what was the source of, how the CBN sourced the money to fund the ways and means. Where did they get the money from? Did they print it? Did they borrow it?
Whatever it was they did, you just made reference to Section 30 of the CBN Act, which says that ways and means must not exceed 5% of the previous year's budget. That is clear. There's no ambiguity in it. You said that you recommended that that act be amended because you understood the implications of that. That was not done. So that was the Ninth Senate breaking the law which it had made previously.
No, like I said, it is not breaking the law.
What is it?
It is a conditional. We approve it subject to the executive providing the necessary information for the 10th Assembly to consider.
What information? Was that condition met?
How was the money used?
Do you know?
I don't know.
And you're a senator.
This is what I'm saying. I don't know. That was conditional. But it has to be approved, but subject to the executive side giving us how the money was used. Senator, it was not information that was passed to us until we left. You know this happened at the tail end of the 9th Assembly.
You talked about one of the conditions upon which that money was approved was that, it was going to not be subject to securitization. That money had to be paid back, but not through federal government saying it was going to be issuing it as bonds or treasury bills, as the case might be. But you are aware that at the end of 2023, this current Senate, the 10th National Assembly, has now approved securitization of outstanding 7.3 trillion naira ways and means. Are you aware of that?
Well, I'm not part of it, so I wouldn't know whether they did or not, because I know there was a bill that was put for the amendment of CBN Act. So I don't know whether it has passed through or it has not passed through. I don't know what stage it is. But technically speaking, Section 38 has to be amended to accommodate securitization.
Okay. Well, Senator, Alain Duma is quoted to have said, when the 22.7 trillion naira ways and means approval request was brought before the 9th Senate, he insisted that the spendings made with it should be provided before the approval. But the Senate went ahead and approved it.
Yes. Why? Because it was, like I said, it has to be done because it was at the tail end. What would the Senate have done? To pass it to the 10th Assembly?
So couldn't the Senate have said, look, we don't know this 22.7 trillion, what was done with it, what are the details? We have no details whatsoever. So 22.7 trillion in abeyance, we can't deal with that. The ones that you brought to request for us, as the law requires, we will approve that. Carry across. What would have been wrong with that?
Well, it was something that we considered, but you see, it didn't, consider that way because, that aspect of the 819, which a lot of people, don't want to look at it as a necessity thing to be done at that material time. You cannot do that without giving a temporary, what I call a subjective approval of the 22 trillion.
No, I don't understand that bit. If you could go again, because the Senate, the Senate passed the ways and means of over 22.something trillion that they had no details whatsoever about.
There was no detail. That is why the approval was subject to. You see, you can have anticipatory approval. It is known in administration, in finance.
22-point-something trillion.
That has built over a period of time. It didn't happen in 1 year. It happened over a period of.
And the Senate was not aware of this?
19, 20.
The Senate was not aware of this?
About the purpose. The executive did not bring it.
And there was no demand.
It was the executive that brought it to the Senate. It was not the uncovering of the Senate.
So now I'm just looking at, right now that we are where we are, can the 9th Senate absolve itself of any blame? Will it be willing to take its own share and say, we are also culpable in getting Nigeria and Nigerians to where we currently are?
Yes, it may be a possible, a possibility to look at it from that way, because why was it done? It was anticipatory. Now, if it is the approval of the Senate based on anticipation of giving information, is what is the problem. Of course, the Ninth Assembly will have to take the blame. But it was anticipatory, and that is fundamental. In administration, in finance, everywhere in the world, you can approve something in anticipation of something to happen.
No, but Senator, now, for a lot of people see this as the Senate just putting their stamp on those who broke the law.
No, I don't see it is not a technical break in the law. Suppose I say, okay, I approve something subject to something happening. So you cannot effect it, you cannot effect the approval until that thing has happened.
But the thing didn't happen.
So if the thing didn't happen, that means the approval is still pending, hanging. That is anticipatory approval.
If you had an opportunity to revisit it again, would you say, no, you know what, anticipatory approval or not, we will not approve this?
No, not that I will not approve. I would say, give me the information. What did you use the money for?
Which is what Senator Nduma said he was asking.
Exactly.
Why couldn't the Senate just say, okay, look, he actually has a point?
Why can't the Senate is establishing an ad hoc committee now? Senate can say, well, what has that money been used for? They are talking about anchor borrowing and what have you.
Yeah, that's another one. They will also probe that program.
That is a so the purpose for the ways and means, before you overdraft, because you grant overdraft, there might be terms of the overdraft. Everybody knows about it. What is the interest rate? What is the tenor of that overdraft? What is the quantity amount of that overdraft? What is it going to be used for? And what have you? So all these things must be compiled and be put forward. But up till the time we left, there was no information along that line.
Do you regret
this? Is why, not in terms of anticipatory, because anticipatory is something that allowed in law. But what I'm saying that, we must revisit it. Because it was anticipatory approval.
Senator, I know you have a degree in economics. That I know. And right now we know that our economy is in a problem, is in dire straits. As somebody who studied economics in school and who has also had the opportunity to practice a bit,
in financial sector.
Some people have said, our country doesn't follow economic rules, but you speak to that. When you look at where we are and the fact that everybody's crying about hardship, what should government be doing from your knowledge and also the practicality of your experience?
Now, let me come there. I could remember the last time we had it. I've always told people that the fundamentals have not been addressed. We are just addressing, something at the top. Our issue is not finance. Our issue boils down to what is the fair value of our Naira. The World Bank, the IMF, the Central Bank, everybody knows that our Naira is undervalued. We all know that. But we are using the palliatives, or we are using instruments of overvaluation to arrest the situation. Take purchasing power parity. What $1 can buy in America, when you food, that $1, when you translate it into an exchange rate today, you can have more. So our Naira is undervalued. So first of all, let us go to the fundamentals. And then what are those fundamentals? The fundamentals is that we are running, economic situation on the basis of financial, financial parameters.
Well, Senator, let me ask you, permit me to come in, Senator, I apologize for butting in. I thought you had landed, actually. Well, let me take you back to that conversation that you and Malpa were having. Channels Television put an explainer out on May 29, 2023, about how ways and means affects Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians. Part of that explainer says that in 2017, actual revenue of the federal government was 2.7 trillion naira, but Ways and Means stood at 1.1 trillion naira, representing 37.2%. In 2018, it rose as well. 2018 actual revenue was 3.87 trillion. Ways and Means 2.1 trillion. On and on and on until 2021, and even up until 2022, even there is an infographic to the effect. But the law Malkwa was calling your attention to, Section 38, subsection 2 says, the total amount of such advances shall not at any time exceed 5% of the previous year's actual revenue of the federal government. I don't know where this anticipatory approval factors in here. Subsection 3A says, all advances made pursuant to this section shall be repaid as soon as possible and shall in any event be repayable by the end of the federal government's financial year in which they are granted. As Chamberlain said, and Malkwa said, these laws were blatantly abused. Who should be answering questions about this particular issue based on the provision of the CBN Act?
Now, let me clarify the issue again. You see, in administration, there's what they call anticipatory approval. You approve something
accommodated in the law.
For me,
my apologies.
If that
just one
has
second.
Not happened,
Senator,
the
just one
approval
second.
of the Ninth Assembly has not taken
Just
place.
1 second, Senator. Is it captured in law, this anticipatory approval? Is it captured in this particular law or in any law?
No, it didn't say that, approval must be non-anticipatory or anticipatory. But what we are saying is that there was a need to look into this and have the approval. But the Ninth Senate said, no, we will approve it subject to, or we have approved it subject to A, B, C, D, and E happening. If A, B, C, D, and E does not happen, that means the approval of the Ninth Assembly did not take place.
This law, Senator, this particular anticipatory approval happened in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. 5 straight years. Is it still anticipatory?
No. No. You see, the approval of the Ways and Means did not take place until 2023. It was a cumulative amount. So what happened in 2015, 2016, 2017, there were not anticipatory approval. This matter did not even come to the Senate, the 8th Senate or the 9th Senate, as the case may have been. It only came at the tail end of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. And there was need to look into the Ways and Means because it has become a serious issue in terms of deficit financing of the budget.
Which goes back to the question Malkwa asked you, Senator, that this happened and the members of the National Assembly were aware. In 2017, it shouldn't have been anything above 5%. In 2017 alone, it was over 30%. What happened to the Senate Committee on the CBN or Senate Committee on Banks and all of that? Shouldn't they also be answering questions?
Yes, in oversighting, in overseeing, all these things, they will all come to be. Now, for instance, the National Assembly is oversighting, the banking committee is oversighting, central bank. Okay? Who is supervising central bank? Who? We need to know who is supervising central bank. We know who is oversighting it, but who is supervising it?
So it goes then to the
issue that, there are some critical issues, much more than, just the management of the Ways and Means. The whole gamut of supervising CBN, will come to question.
Well, Senator, you just asked that question now. It is public knowledge that from time to time, the National Assembly, through one committee or the other, would summon the CBN governor to come and answer a question or two. Which committee of the Senate or of the National Assembly does that? Shouldn't they be the ones that the question you are asking be directed to? Can you hear me, Senator?
Will come out of this probe, but it does appear that my colleague is frozen now. I'm just wondering, what do you think will come out of this probe, given the fact that, given the... Sorry, Ayo, if I might just conclude this, since we're already in our closing moments. Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm what you think will anything come out of this, because don't forget that members of the National Assembly who gave that approval, anticipatory as it might be, were in the 9th Assembly, some of them are now in the 10th Assembly. Yeah. Can the Senate actually be probing itself and the approvals be granted?
No, yes, Senate can probe itself. There's no reason why it cannot. You know, once you have found out, you know, there are some areas that you need to improve in your own legislative agenda, of course you can improve it. I'm so happy that, you know, they established an ad hoc committee. In the 9th Assembly, there was no any ad hoc committee, you know, to work on the Ways and Means. But now there is to probe, to investigate, to find out. In fact, much more, we need to know how the CBN even funded, you know, the Ways and Means over a period of time. Did they print money? Did they borrow money? Is it open market operation? How did they do it? Because there are also serious issues in terms of deficit financing that have pushed, you know, affected, you know, the inflation, all other areas. So I think, you know, it will be very, very interesting to see how the ad hoc committee is going to investigate it, and they must be honest and truthful in what they are going to do. If it is the previous Senate that is found to be wanting, let them say so. If it is, you know, the administration, the executive side, let them say so. If it is CBN, let them say so.
Should it be done in front of cameras?
I think it should be. It should be so open, and everybody that is required to be done, you know, to the previous managers of CBN must come to account on how did they fund it.
All right, Senator Yusuf, former Chairman, Senate Committee on Special Duties. Thank you very much indeed for coming on today.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, Dixon Eka, we see your message talking about the government of President Tinubu with the renewed hope mantra being turned to government of blame game. The government is blaming the middleman in the agri-food chain. If the middlemen don't lift farmers' produce to the cities, how will the people in the city get their food? Will farmers come back to their farms in Benue and take their produce to Abuja, maybe by trekking? The CBN and the FCC are blaming the BDC operators. How many banks have been given foreign currencies and what amount? And it goes on. Well, thank you very much. So that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Oso. Have yourselves a very good day.
Whatever happens, please keep your head up. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Oguyusuf.
Do have a wonderful and productive day. I'm Ayo Makinde.